Live. Here we are. We're live. We're back. We're back. English Across the Pond is back. Episode 38. We're so excited to be here. Dan, how's it going?
It's going very well, thank you. It's a lovely day here in England. If you were with us a few moments ago, you'll know we had a couple of mic problems, but now we're back and we're live and everything's good. The UK, spring is in the air. Flowers are beginning to appear. How are things in America, my friend?
Sun is shining. The weather is sweet. It's beautiful. You sound crispy clear. This is going to be a fabulous episode because not only are our listeners able to hear us perfectly, we're talking about speaking today.
Perfect topic. We had a previous episode that was about how to improve your listening. It was one of our most popular episodes. So we're kind of not repeating, of course, we're talking about speaking, but this week we're talking about how to improve your speaking. It's full of great tips for our students, for our listeners, for our viewers. So let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So the big question that we always get is, how can I improve my speaking? So I think that's the number one question. If you had to give an answer in 1 second, Dan, I know it's hard because it's not that easy for just one answer, but just for fun, one answer, one sentence, how can someone improve their speaking?
Practice.
Practice what?
Well, practice makes perfect, and practice as in make sure that you're learning English every day, make sure that you're accessing new English so that you can hear new vocabulary, listening to different accents, etc., etc. So my quick answer is to practice.
Cool.
What would you say? You can have the same one if you like.
The same question?
Yeah, or the same answer.
Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, my question is, I'll make it slightly different. Somebody has been learning English for a while and they feel that they've reached like a plateau and they're not getting any further. They don't feel like they're making progress with their speaking. What would your advice be, my partner?
I love this question because it is going to relate back to my all-time favorite quote from Mr. Tony Robbins.
Oh!
If you do what you've always done, you'll get where you've always gotten.
Yeah.
So if you are continuously studying English and you feel like you've reached a plateau or basically a level that you cannot get past, then you have to make a change. You have to do something different. So evaluate what you are doing, evaluate what you have been doing related to speaking or general skill improvement, and then make a slight change. It doesn't have to be drastic, but maybe increase the amount or change the activity or add a new activity or just do something different. That's my quick basic answer.
Sounds good.
Another question is, can I improve my speaking alone?
Good question. I would say that it's preferable to be in a group or with a partner or with a teacher or with a native speaker or in a native speaking country. But you bet it's possible to learn to speak better on your own. Of course it is. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah. So let's just dive right into talking about what's important for students to know about speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So we've started off by giving a couple of tips. You said to practice, to actually do it. I said, if you're not happy with how things are going, make a change. But let's review some other important things that students should know about speaking.
Perfect.
Do you want to go first or shall I?
Well, I took a deep breath.
I know. Just checking in with you.
So maybe I should. Well, it's something that we've said, but it's something that we can't say often enough. It's something we've said before, but don't be afraid of making mistakes. We learn by making mistakes. And indeed, your last mistake is your greatest teacher.
So you are also sharing your favorite quote.
I am. So really, you'll never get from A to B with your conversation if you're worrying too much about the tense or choosing the right word or what you've just said. What I just said, maybe it should have been in the passive. It'll never. You'll never make that leap across the divide, you'll never sort of make that conversation. So please don't worry about mistakes, my friends.
Nice. How does somebody overcome shyness, do you think?
I think it's a really hard question. I think shyness can permeate and affect us on so many levels. And even as a teacher, there are times when I am outside the classroom door and I think, I don't want to go in. I feel a bit shy. Just maybe I'm tired or I'm just not feeling like it. And one thing that you can do, and someone I know says this quite a lot, is you need to just bite the bullet.
Ooh, nice. I like that one. I love that expression.
I think it's you who said it.
I was being modest.
So, I mean, feel the fear and do it anyway is also maybe a little bit of a cliche, but, if we do go wrong and if the English is, if there are mistakes, what's the worst thing that will happen? You're very unlikely to kill somebody by making a mistake in English in a conversation. So just try. I know it's very, very hard and it's a very easy thing to say, but try to keep a perspective. Also, breathing can help. Breathing steadily and slowly, drinking water, things like that. There are physical things. I used to like having a mint, like a polo or a mint. If I felt a bit nervous, for some reason, having a mint in my mouth sort of distracted me from being nervous. Is that weird?
It's not that I've heard before, but weird is maybe too strong. But
Yeah,
I mean, anything to help overcome shyness. I think the big key word there was distraction. Maybe distracting yourself. Something I've thought about and, is what about, I mean, this is a US thing, but Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or those people that go on and do these live shows every night. And, the person who's introducing the show always says oh, this is what the show is going to be about. And now here he is, Jimmy Fallon. And then the curtains open and he walks out.
Mm-hmm.
How do he probably even sometimes feels shy or I just don't want to, I just can't do this today, but he just has to suck it up and go for it, right?
Yeah, and I think it's ultimately, if you really, really want something, if you're really determined to learn English or to do X, you have to not let things get in your way. I mean, unfortunately, it's a cruel, big, harsh world out there, and if we want to, we can not achieve our goals and we can sit quietly at home if we want to. That's not against the law. You're not going to get in any trouble for not taking that leap and taking that risk and pushing yourself. But if you do, I'm sure you'll feel better about the day, you'll feel better about yourself, and you can get momentum. You'll get this sort of speed going where you think, well, I did that last week, so I can do this week. It can be self-fulfilling. So feel the fear and do it anyway.
Nice. Yeah. I like that. You and we both have experience learning another language and speaking another language, right?
Yeah. I've spent time trying to speak Chinese in China, Vietnamese in Vietnam, and failing spectacularly in all of these places.
Nice. So what would you say was your biggest takeaway learning experience from those?
Well, I'll tell you one little, it's only very short, a little story. I was with a guy, my friend, in a taxi in China, and I couldn't make the taxi guy understand because I was using just a very small phrase. And my friend, who was better at Chinese, but he spoke for longer. And the more words that you put together, the more context there is. So I would say speaking in bigger chunks, trying to use not one word, but 3 words, 5 words, a sentence makes you more likely to be understood.
That is such a good point, and it reminded me of a story when I was teaching in a classroom and I was teaching beginner. Mm-hmm. These people were fresh out of the airport in America for the first time using English, and it was a conversation class. So imagine the challenges that everybody, including myself, in the classroom had for this. Mm-hmm. And something that I remember that I couldn't help but smile at, and it wasn't that I was laughing at the students, but sometimes the teacher or the students would say, these one words and be like, teacher, dog. And I'm like, dog what?
Yeah, really.
Teacher,
Which
dog? Fur. I'm like, okay, what is he trying? What's the fur call? And I'm like trying desperately to string together these two words that students are saying. So that just really, really reiterates what you said. With the less you say because of being shy, the harder it's going to be for somebody to understand you. So if you are shy, if you're worried about making a mistake or not being understood, know that you should just speak more, and then you're more likely to be understood.
Yeah, and in that way, that's kind of like a cruel answer for someone who's very shy. Is like, you want me to speak more, but I'm really shy. But unfortunately, again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The less we do something, we're not going to get better by doing something less. I think we know this. We know this logic, but logic doesn't always come into it, and shyness can be a problem. But ultimately, it is up to us to make the most of the opportunities that we have, and be positive and try and do what we can do to move forward. So it's not always easy. We appreciate that. And as I said, and as we said, even as teachers, even as Jen said, these great big media stars who appear on TV live night after night, they get nervous too. We all get nervous. And it's just a matter of trying to get it in perspective. And we've only got one life. Let's do it.
Let's live it. So I think that we're just going to give a lot of tips today in general. Can I hop in with one tip on how to maybe overcome shyness?
Surely.
So I think, and this is speaking from experience as well, when you have to speak this other language, sometimes it's awkward even listening to yourself. And part of that shyness is just the lack of experience hearing your own voice, hearing yourself use the language. Mm-hmm. So when you're in the situation in public or with a partner or somewhere that you have to use English, if it's the first time or one of the few times that you're even speaking English aloud, then yes, that is going to be so uncomfortable because you're not even comfortable with yourself speaking. So I cannot stress how important it is to speak by yourself, to talk to yourself, okay? Don't be afraid to sound crazy, because if you speak with yourself for self-study practicing, then you're going to be more comfortable hearing your own voice in English and being comfortable with that production of English sounds. So summarizing that tip, speak to yourself to get comfortable hearing your own voice in English.
What about, I don't know if you mentioned it specifically, but what about recording yourself?
Yes, and I'm going to add recording yourself and listening back. Yeah. So often my students, I'll give them an assignment to record themselves, and they're like, oh, I don't like to listen to myself. I hate hearing my own voice. And I don't know, probably only, voice actors enjoy hearing their voice. Mm-hmm. So if you record yourself and you listen back, again, that's going to get yourself comfortable with your own English voice.
I think that's such a good tip, because then when you are in a conversation situation, you're not thinking, oh my God, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. You're used to that. So I think that's a really good way to try to sort of like lessen or get rid of some of the nerves, some of the shyness.
So speaking by themselves is one way to do it. What can they talk about? What if someone's feeling stuck even with having a conversation by themselves?
Well, there are, in the English language world, the English language industry of, teaching English and learning English, there are some topics that appear for me every day for about 20 years. Things like hobbies, free time, family, pets, travel, future plans, where you live, what you're studying, etc., etc. They're in exams as well. Any exams that you're going to take or touch on these subjects, they are the classic subjects. As your English gets better, topics get a little bit more difficult. But at the beginning stages, and also at the beginning of any exam, they ask you the same sort of set of questions, which, as I said, I'll say them again a bit slower. Family, friends, free time, travel, hobbies, future plans, your studies, jobs. Any more, Jen?
Yeah, so those I think you touched on a lot. I don't want to overwhelm them with too much right away, but if you're with a conversation partner, those are things you can definitely talk about. But if you're by yourself, just practice speaking about those topics on your own. So using the example of future travel plans, say out loud, record yourself talking about what you're going to do this weekend. What are you doing on your next vacation? Where do you want to go on your next vacation? Where have you gone on vacation? You can also use it to practice a variety of tenses, grammatical points and structures, etc.
Yeah, perfect. Can I say a point?
I would love to hear your point.
I think, well, I've definitely met in the past English language learners who have tried to hide their mistakes by speaking very quickly.
Yeah.
And as a native speaker, I'm sorry to tell you, it doesn't work. A, we can still hear the mistakes, and B, your English becomes confused and stumbling, and you haven't got time to think, and you've forgotten what you've said, or you re-say things, you start to stammer and stumble and fall. And my advice would be to just slow it down. Take your time. Even in your native language, wherever you're watching us or listening to us from, you will know people who speak quickly, maybe one of your teachers or someone in your family, and someone who speaks slowly or slower. There's nothing wrong with speaking a little bit slowly, and it gives you time to think and time to get ready for the next phrase you're going to say, or to give yourself time to think about the answer to the question. So please, honestly, fast English, it does not make you sound better. Fast English, in fact, just makes you sound confused, and we know you're trying to cover up your mistakes. It's a brave thing to do, and to sort of act like a native speaker. But honestly, I think I can speak for most native speakers and say we would much rather just be cooler and calmer and take time to smile and breathe.
Yes, that's a really, really good one. Also, we've talked about this before. I think having speaking slower and having more accuracy is definitely better than speaking really quickly with a lot of mistakes. And I think that kind of touches on what you said, that someone thinks, oh, I want to speak like a native, so I have to speak really quickly. But if you're making a lot of mistakes, then it doesn't matter anyways.
Well, of course, if you're almost proficient, go for it.
Yeah.
Speed it up. I mean, we can handle it.
Yeah. I want to talk about maybe a way to use TV or movies to improve speaking. So something that they can do, you listening or watching can do, is actively watch TV or movies. So that means you're not watching purely just for enjoyment or entertainment, but you want to watch with the purpose of learning. So maybe you want to use it to practice and improve your speaking. So find a scene in a movie or a TV show that you like and focus on the conversation that two people are having. So focus on maybe 1 minute of the TV show or movie and listen to the conversation. So play it and listen to how they speak, and then rewind that 1 minute section. And when somebody finishes speaking, you pause it and you mimic or you say what you heard them say, focusing on the rhythm, the speed, the intonation, the linking, the reduction of sounds, contractions, and thinking all about the different pronunciation areas that you want to improve on.
And you could, although it sounds crazy, you could, with 60 minutes from one of your favorite movies, you could easily give yourself 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours work of listening to it again, writing down what you think you've heard, checking with the subtitles, then speaking yourself, then going back, seeing, as Jennifer mentioned, about contractions, which words are missed, which words are stressed, listening again, then speak. It just can go on and on. And it's so good for your English to do something like that.
Yes, awesome. So we have a couple more that maybe we want to give. Do you have any more tips? One more tip, maybe?
Yeah, and I think it's semi or as we say in England, semi-dangerous, but the idea of having set phrases ready, I think we've got to be careful about this. We can't have too many set phrases ready because we will end up sounding like a robot. But there's nothing wrong with having, that's an interesting thing, that's an interesting question, or let me think about that, or to have some questions like, what did you do at the weekend, or how are you today, or just to get the ball rolling and to get the conversation started. Also, if you do suddenly become nervous and shy, maybe a phrase like, I'm not sure how to answer that, or you could say, I'm sorry, but I don't feel so confident in English. And these phrases can be very helpful to keep the connection going. Like I say, I wouldn't over rely on these kinds of phrases. You need a small bank of them, and after a while, sooner or later, you don't need them anymore. You can set yourself free and just go on to speak more freely. But to begin with, I think they can really help you to get going. So a set of maybe 10 phrases that you've got ready in your mind, one for starting a conversation, maybe one for when you're not sure what someone said, when you feel that you're struggling to understand. These can really help, I think, and help you also maybe to help you feel confident before you even start the conversation. So I would say, with caution, have some phrases ready.
Awesome. Love it. A lot of tips that we just reviewed. Let's wrap it up and do a little language focus to help our listeners today. So we gave a lot of tips on how to speak better, hopefully some tips and motivation on how to get over their fears, ways to communicate. In a nutshell, should we review what those tips were?
If you've got them to hand, that would be ideal.
Yes, I have them readily available. So we said to basically practice. That was the first thing we said. So in a nutshell, speaking better, you want to practice. You want to do something different if you're not happy with your current level. You want to get over your shyness. You want to start speaking more by yourself, recording yourself in your audio. You want to use TV shows or movies to mimic or shadow what you hear to practice pronunciation. You want to slow down and focus on not covering up your mistakes. And then you want to as well have a couple of phrases on hand to give yourself a little bit more confidence and to make yourself feel more comfortable when you need to speak.
Did you just remember all of those in a row?
Yeah, right here up in my brain, I've got it.
You're an amazing human being.
I might have a couple of notes here. So we have our forum available on our website. And this forum is available for free for anyone listening, for anyone watching, and you can go to EnglishAcrossThePond.com and click on forum at the top of the website. In this forum, there is a different conversation topics, questions to answer, and it's really an area for you, an English learner and listener, to improve your English skills. This week, we are going to open up a conversation for conversation partners. So all of our listeners of English Across the Pond can hopefully connect together, find somebody else who is a listener, and practice their conversation skills. And you can utilize some of the tips from this episode to improve your speaking.
If I was learning English, I'd be there in a flash.
Yeah, I'd be there in a heartbeat. So we have given them the tips. Okay, so step one, you guys are going to write down all of the tips and you're going to start deciding what you're going to do to improve English. Number two, you're going to go to the forum and you're going to find a conversation partner. Dan, let's give some sample questions that they can use to start a good conversation practice with their partner. And I'm going to go first.
Good. Am I going to give an answer as well, or just questions?
I am going to ask you a question. You're going to give me a quick sample answer, and then you're going to ask me a question, and here we go.
Beautiful.
So, ring, ring, ring. Dan, hi.
Hey, is that Jennifer?
This is Jennifer. I love English Across the Pond. I listen every week. How about you?
Same.
Cool. So,
Have you got a question?
yeah. So, where are you from?
I'm from a small town in the middle of England called Ashby-de-la-Zouch.
Ooh, that's a fun name to pronounce.
Yeah, it's because of in 1066, 1,000 years ago, the French invaded my country and they liked it so much they completely took it over and renamed lots of places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Got it.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about your family?
Oh my gosh, I would love to. So, my immediate family right now is my husband and my son. And my son is only 5 months old, and I live in Arizona with the two of them. And unfortunately, we don't have any immediate family close by. I have some family that lives in California, some family that lives in Texas, and some family that lives in Brazil.
Thank you.
Yes. So obviously the conversation would go much longer than this, but you can start out a conversation with small talk. Both you and your conversation partner have something in common. You both listen to this podcast. So talk about what you like about the podcast, how long you've been listening, where and why you listen. Go into where you live and some interesting facts about your city, and then you can ask about family. In our episode guide this week, we will also include some other sample questions that you can ask your conversation partner.
Perfect. And just to say, although our answers, with a normal conversation with a conversation partner, of course, we just began the conversations, the answers that Jennifer and I gave are perfect for any speaking exam. I realize that the topic this week is kind of how to improve your speaking in general and getting a conversation partner and speaking on your own, but the answers were also perfect for IELTS and TOEFL as well.
Awesome. And just a quick note from the comment section is Adriana had asked, is it good to start talking about weather or is it old-fashioned? And Dan, I think you have the answer for that one.
Well, coming from a country, an island that is completely obsessed with the weather, I would say the weather is always the height of fashion. It's always in fashion. In fact, today, without thinking about it, I've probably had 5 conversations about the weather. Particularly, it's very, very popular in the UK and the British Isles because it is an island. It gets affected by the Atlantic and by the it gets affected by different areas affect us.
Yes. So we are going to wrap up this. Hopefully that answered your question, Adriana. I would say, speaking from the American aspect, that yes, weather is really common for small talk. Also, another common area of small talk, again, is interests and things that you have in common. So you listeners and live watchers are now ready to start improving your speaking alone or with your partner today. So head over to our website and find a conversation partner. Download the episode guide that is going to be available on Friday for this episode. This episode will be available on our podcast every Friday. As you know, every Friday we release brand new episodes with an episode guide to help you improve your English. The episode guide has vocabulary, expressions, and more details about our language point. It's free, and you can get that right on our website. Finally, one point, if you are really serious about improving your English and you want to take your learning one step further and you want extra resources to learn, then we highly recommend that you sign up to become an English Across the Pond member. We call them a ponder. So you can become a ponder, and for $10 a month, you can get transcripts, comprehension questions to every episode to practice your listening skills and improve with the transcript, which is the written dialogue of everything we've said. We also have bonus training videos, live training sessions, and more resources for you. If you want to sign up to become a member, you can also do that online by going to EnglishAcrossThePond.com and clicking membership. Dan, anything you want to add? So, anything you want to add? I can't hear you. Your mic is turned off. So we're going to wrap it up then today. And all of this is going to be available for you this Friday. We thank you so much for joining us live. If you have joined us live, Dan's mic is off, but he is waving his hands frantically saying goodbye. Thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you next week. And until then, have a great day. Bye.